Hockey was one of the greatest players in the NHL, considering the legacy that he has left behind even when he's not with us. That legacy is even more impressive given that Howe was not a role player. He was a steady, top-tier right winger in the NHL, winning 4 Stanley Cups. But his retirement was something that came as unexpected. Due to the issues with the management of his franchise, Howe had to take the other turn, which ultimately led to his departure. When he ultimately hung up his skates for good, Mr. Hockey represented the sport to players all around the world. He was good at it, but the scary truth about his goodbye from the NHL is something that is not known to many.
I met Gordie Howe when I was 10, and my dad said, "How was it?" And I said, "You know, he was bigger and nicer and better than I had in my 10-year-old brain. And he was just a real special man." And
so what were the unexpected hurdles that came his way? The only way to find that out is to know about his story first, which is tied with taking a look at his phenomenal career. Howe was born on March 31st, 1928, in tiny Floral, Saskatchewan, as one of 9 children raised by his parents, Abe and Kate. After his family relocated to neighboring Saskatoon, Howe became a big admirer of hockey and just fell in love with it the moment he put on his first pair of skates. A worn set of boots and blades dumped into the Howe kitchen in a sack of odds and ends by a desperate woman that was looking for $1 or $2. When he was 8, Howe started playing organized hockey. However, his spine was damaged by a calcium deficit. But this issue was resolved with his intense attention to fitness and summers spent working with his father, a worker resulting in the muscular physique that he would employ to his full advantage during his illustrious career. At the age of 15, Howe had an unsuccessful audition with the New York Rangers in Winnipeg, leaving him pining for home. And the next year, he was signed by the Detroit Redwings. He attended school in Galt, Ontario, and practiced with Detroit's junior club before turning professional at the age of 17, with Omaha of the United States Hockey League. On October 16, 1946, Howe made his NHL debut at the age of 18, scoring 1 goal and fighting twice. His reputation for toughness was established early and tested frequently. Howe eventually learned to quit searching for trouble, but he never gave up when it came knocking. A crushing, famous multi-punch dismantling of Rangers heavyweight Lou Fontinato in 1959 established once and for all that it's best not to go under Mr. Hockey's skin. His abilities and perfect game made him a force to be reckoned with, and that was something others acknowledged as well. Howe knows how to shade the rules, an unnamed Chicago Blackhawks player stated in a 1964 Sports Illustrated profile of the Red Wings right wing. You do something to him, he won't let you get to him. But when you come out on the next scramble, you've got 4 or 5 stitches you don't know how you got. Indeed, Howe spent 1,685 minutes, the equivalent of 28 full games, in NHL penalty boxes, 4 times earning 100 or more minutes in a single season. While talking about his game once, Howe said, "I play religious hockey. It is better to give than to receive." If Howe's famous elbows and cement fists were visible, his power and strength were deceptive. In a December 1963 Maclean's magazine profile of Howe during his 18th NHL season, Canadian journalist and broadcaster Pete Zowski regarded him as a less than fearsome physical specimen, saying, "A hero for our time who doesn't look very heroic. The great strength he demonstrates in hockey flows from him rather than exploding, and the effortless grace with which he glides on the ice, which has given so many hockey fans joy over the years, is also visible in his relaxed, almost lazy walk."
He was just a genuine person. He knew how to make people feel so good about themselves.
As a rookie in 1947, coach Tommy Ivan placed Howe on a Red Wings line with center Sid Abel and left wing Ted Lindsay. The production line, dubbed by its offensive output and a tribute to Detroit's automotive sector, was the most feared trio of its time. The Red Wings were the NHL's powerhouse in the late 1940s and early 1950s, winning the Stanley Cup 4 times in 6 seasons, from 1950 to 1955, with Lindsay, Abel, and Howe placing first, second, and third in league scoring in 1949 and 1950. However, Howe's career nearly ended in the playoffs that season as he cracked his head when he collided with Toronto Maple Leafs captain Ted "Teeter" Kennedy, crashing into the Detroit Olympia's cornerboard. While emergency surgery relieved the pressure on Howe's brain, many people were concerned not only about his career but also his life. The man's mettle was tested when he returned to the Olympia ice in street clothes less than a month later to celebrate the Redwings Stanley Cup victory, then roared back the next season to win the first of his 6 NHL scoring titles, finishing with 86 points, 20 more than Canadiens' rival Maurice "Rocket" Richard. But things took an unexpected turn, and that's where the scary truth about him was revealed. Howe excelled with the Red Wings for nearly 2 decades. Even as management stripped the squad of parts and he felt underappreciated near the end. He retired in 1971, settling into an unappealing front office position. And that is where everything changed. When his career as a Red Wing ended in 1971, and he resigned from ice hockey for the first time, it was after a peculiar season in which Howe switched positions, battled an injury, and took a mysterious vacation. All of this took place against the backdrop of a soap opera feud in the front office. Ned Harkness is not remembered warmly in Detroit. There's a reason his time with the Red Wings was dubbed Darkness with Harkness. During his tenure as coach and subsequently general manager, the team struggled and failed to enter the postseason. Despite his brilliant hockey mind, the former NCAA championship-winning college coach was outmatched in the NHL, and practically every decision he made was a disaster. One of Harkness's oddest ideas proved to be the spark for the Detroit Hockey Club's tumultuous season. It was his idea to turn Gordie Howe, the greatest NHL scorer of all time, into a defenseman. It was poorly executed, as were the majority of Ned's numbskull ideas in the pros. The 1970-71 season was Gordie Howe's 25th, a record. He had already scored more goals, made more assists and points, and thrown more elbows than any player in league history. With 6 league MVP awards, 4 Stanley Cup victories, and 11 finals appearances, Howe appeared to have accomplished everything in the league. In his prime, he was the best skater, puck handler, fittest, strongest-legged, and smartest player on the ice. While he appeared to be growing older and thinner on top, he remained a top performer in the league. In 1968-69, he was 10th in league in points. However, in the summer of 1970, as Harkness prepared for his first full season as a Wings coach, he had the idea of utilizing Howe's better skills on the blue line. He imagined Gordie as a rover who could move all over the ice and influence the game. Still, it felt like an unusual attempt for a man making his NHL coaching debut. But Harkness considered himself a genius, and he enjoyed devising new techniques. But why tamper with Gordie? Previously, Howe, Alex Delavecchio, and Frank Mahovlich set an NHL record with 114 goals. So even though Gordie was 42 years old when the 1970-71 season began, it felt perilous to split up a skilled 3 that played with synchronized intuition. But then Howe suffered a torn rib after falling on the point of Flyers defenseman Joe Watson's skate on November 22, 1970 in Philadelphia. Doctors predicted Gordie would lose 6 to 8 weeks, but the 42-year-old returned less than 4 weeks later, on December 19th, having missed only 10 games. In his previous 24 seasons with Detroit, Iron Man Howe had only missed 42 games due to injuries. His 10 missed games ended a streak of 252 games without an injury. Things got messier within the team management, and Harkness took over as the new GM, which made things even worse. A new, uncertain era had begun in Detroit, and Harkness quickly began to rebuild the Detroit roster, removing players that he perceived as troublemakers and malcontents, and one of them was Gordie Howe. Though he did come back in early March of the next year, Gordie knew that now was the time to say a final goodbye to everyone. On September 15, 1971, Gordie Howe announced his retirement from professional hockey in front of over 200 media members and hockey authorities at Olympia Stadium. It appeared unbelievable. He had been playing in Detroit for so long that it appeared like Howe was an ice hockey player. He'd helped make a Canadian game more appealing to American audiences. In 2016, the remarkable hockey player died at the age of 88 after a long battle with dementia. His legacy is something that keeps on going till date, and fans will still remember him for everything he did for his passion.
How did Connor McDavid become an NHL superstar so quickly? From joining the OHL at 15 to breaking records